frog stretch is an excellent position to train some of the inside of thigh stuff, outside of hip stuff, and even internal rotation stuff of the hip. As a stretch alone, the inside of groin side, inside of thigh stuff, the stretch is gold. So to find frog stretch, I'm going to spread my knees on the floor, a little wide. I want my heels aligned behind my knees so my shins are going to be parallel with each other. And from here, I'm going to sink my hips back like I'm trying to touch my butt to the wall behind me. For an increased stretch, I can come down to my elbows and do the same thing, reaching my butt for the wall behind me. One of the things that I'll look out for is that I'm almost thinking of tipping that tailbone up, scooping that tailbone up as I pull back through the hips. When I run out of room, I can't go any further without that back starting to round or the tailbone tucking under. That's my limit. I've hit my range. And what I should feel is a nice stretch on the inside of thigh stuff up to the groin. If this is too much in either position, one thing that you can do is bring the heels slightly closer together. This will help rotate the thighs open and take off some of the gas for the hips. Ideally though, we would be able to work toward a position where both the shins are parallel. So let's say you've established your stretch. First thing I'll have you do is just sit here for 1.5 to 2 minutes. Being able to tolerate this position and accumulate this time would be the first goal. If that's something you're able to do and you can check off that box, we can start to add some work into this position. And the way we'll do that, there are a couple options. For training the inside of thigh stuff, for training abduction, the ability of the knees to spread apart from each other, what we'll do is we'll add a little bit of effort to the inside of thigh stuff, and then we'll add effort to the outside of hip stuff to train both sides. This is going to be isometric work, so we're not going to go anywhere. I'm going to have you take a breath in, and you build into your PAILs effort, your push effort, to the desired level of tension, thinking about squeezing your knees toward each other as if you were trying to crinkle the rug or crinkle the yoga mat. You're not going to see me going anywhere. Just know that I'm contracting the stuff that's being stretched. My knees are fighting their way toward each other like I'm trying to grab the ground between them. And I can build to my desired level of tension, anywhere from 0 to 100% for my desired level of time. And I'll hold, and then I'll relax, and I'll switch to the outside of hip stuff. Now I'm going to drive my knees apart from each other, thinking about trying to spread or stretch that rug or that yoga mat to the floor between my knees. Again, they might not go anywhere or go anywhere very far. I'm going to squeeze that outside of hip stuff. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze from a desired level, time and level of tension, and then I'll ramp on down. From here, I can actually settle a little bit deeper into my stretch, take a breath in, and wash, rinse, repeat for round 2. Another option that I have from frog position is to train internal rotation deep within this horizontal abduction and flexion of the hip. So for this, in addition to driving the knees into the ground, I'm going to add driving the ankles through the floor. As if the floor were not there, I'm trying to do this with my ankle, driving my whole shin through the floor. So same concept. I'm going to take that breath in. I'm going to create tension in my body so that I don't go anywhere. I'll pull my knees toward each other to get some tension on the inside of the thighs. And then I'm going to drive my heels through that floor. I'm going to feel a good bit of butt stuff firing up and working here. I'll hold for time at my desired level of tension, and then I'll ramp down the way I ramped in, and then I'll switch. I'm going to think of trying to pull my ankles up off the ground. Instead of letting them come off the ground, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that effort, I'm going to use that work, if my ankles were glued to the ground, to pull myself deeper into the stretch actively, pulling my butt towards the back of that room, pulling through the front of the hips, trying to lift my ankles up off the ground, using the side of butt stuff that's firing up and this stuff right here to create that backward pull, actively increasing that stretch. Hold, 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 on down, wash, rinse, repeat. Ways that we can groove this work even further after getting these pails and rails and opening up new range of motion. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to back on out of that very end range just a little bit. I'm going to take a breath in, and here I'm going to groove internal rotation. So I backed out of my very end range. I'm going to lift off here, lifting the ankles and the heels up off the ground. Right now I'm thinking of spinning both thighs toward the center of my body. That'll do the work of lifting the ankles and the heels. I want to feel that side of butt stuff firing, feel that top of front pocket stuff firing, feel the abs firing. With that exhale, lifting, hold, 2, 3, parachute back on down. Aim for 2 sets of 8 repetitions with 3-second holds to really groove that work in that range that you just opened up. Alternately, coming down to the side, or all fours, or standing, or I would say not alternately, but in addition to, tying all that work back together through a full range of motion cars to save the work and upload that work to the brain. Really thinking about and focusing on these positions here as this hip begins to mimic that frog position I was just in. I can really take some of that work that I just did, all that juicy connection, and tie it into the global picture by spending time on those chunks in my hip car. Side lying, quadruped, or standing. These are good ways to save the work and bring them back into the brain in a dynamic way. Another way that we can train the hips or even further challenge what we just opened up in frog position is to train that horizontal abduction with a straight leg. In this position, I've come to all fours. My hands are underneath my shoulders, my knees are underneath my hips. I'm going to take one leg and I'm going to stretch it out directly to the side, right? If I were to draw a line between my hands and a line between my knee and my foot, they are parallel, like so. From here, I'm going to work either pails and rails. My pails would be driving foot through the floor. The rails would be lifting foot away from the floor. Or I can work my lift-offs, which I'll do right now. For my lift-offs, I feel a stretch here through the underside of this tissue. What I'm going to be doing is contracting this outside of hip stuff to lift my heel up off the ground without the torso or the rest of the body going anywhere. So I'm going to take that breath in, lock myself in, develop tension everywhere in the body, and then slowly pour work down that side of butt stuff, that left side of butt stuff, the left side of the leg, and lift. Floating that foot up off the ground, hold, 2, 3, set it back on down. And I want that foot to stay pointed at the wall in front of me. I don't want that foot to float up to the ceiling. That would be training stuff other than this side line of the leg stuff that we want to hit. Again, big breath in. Get tight, 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 tight everywhere. And then pour work into that side of butt stuff. Float the leg off the ground. Float it back on down. Give it a couple sets at 6 to 8 repetitions on each side. Follow it up with some hip cars and see how you feel.